Hi, thank you for watching. So this video isn't about a Tesla, it's about the Audi E-Tron. But how does it compare to a Tesla? So I've been a Tesla owner for 5 years now, just over 5 years, and I love my Teslas. So would I like the E-Tron? Well, I actually bought this car. I bought it because I buy and sell cars, but I've been driving it for the last week. I've covered nearly 1,000 miles, so I can offer you some really good comparisons between the Audi E-Tron and a Tesla. Will I like it? What I do like, what I don't like. So keep watching and I'll run through everything I've spotted so far. So firstly, what do I think of the looks? Well, it's very Audi really, isn't it? It's very smart, it's very tidy, the fit and finish is brilliant. Just be kind of nice to look a bit different to other Audis, I guess. They've got a very consistent theme. I'm not quite so keen on the fact it kind of looks like it has a grille, but it's not really a grille. And in here, you can put your fingers in here, but there's just nothing there. You think that would be something smooth to make it more aerodynamic. So it's very Audi, it's very conservative. I do like it, it's very smart. The Model X, well, it's a little bit more different. So in some ways I like that more, in some ways I like this more. That's going to be down to preference. Be interested to know what you think. If you comment below, let me know what you prefer the look of. It'd be really interesting to see your thoughts. So in terms of size, the E-Tron's kind of classed as an SUV, but it's actually not that at all. It's actually quite a lot lower than the Model X. And we have a Q5 inside, and this is actually taller than the E-Tron. So it's crossed between a kind of an estate car and an SUV, but it's not quite a full SUV, and I quite like that. On this one as well, this has the digital cameras, but a bit more of that in a minute. So this is the height of a Tesla Model S by comparison. So actually the E-Tron, in its size and height, fits sort of between the S and the X. So the Model X has LED headlights, but so does the Audi. But the Audis are brilliant. They really are very good. These are kind of adaptive matrix headlights that light up different segments of the road. It has this kind of auto high beam. Car comes the other way and it sort of shadows a part of that car so it doesn't dazzle them. The headlights on the Audi, they win easily. The Teslas don't have headlight washers, but the E-Tron does.
That's done.
So on the Audi, I really like the way the lights are animated, both front and back. So at night, you've got this full bar across here, and when you lock the car, it goes in. And it's just a nice touch. Doesn't really mean a lot, but the way the lights animate when you open and lock the car, yeah, it's nice. The back lights on the Tesla, I've always thought they're kind of a bit droopy here, really, my personal choice. But on a black Model X, you kind of don't see that bottom section. So you just see the red outline there. So I think on the black Model X, they look very nice. Not so keen on the other colours myself, but we're nitpicking here, to be honest. The E-Tron has quite an interesting feature in that it has a charge flap here with a nice little door, but it also has a charge flap on the other side. The other side is the side that has CCS. This is just for AC charging. It's nice to have two areas. It is more convenient, but what I have found is that when you go to a fast charger, there's a big thick cable and you often have to stretch the cable round and the cable goes on the bodywork. I don't really like that. The Model X has one charge port in the back here and it's Type 2 only. You have to have an adapter for CCS. The adapter works fine, but it means you've got to get an adapter out the boot and connect it to this. So perhaps with a revised version of the Model X out next year, maybe they'll fit a CCS connection in there. Make things a bit easier really, wouldn't it? Now, this is bugging me. This car new was 82,000 and something pounds, but it doesn't have keyless entry. I couldn't believe it. I've been through the books and looking at it, but it's an option. It's an optional extra. So you have to get the key and unlock it. Come on, Audi. So the Model X can come with either 20-inch slipstream wheels or these big 22-inch turbine wheels, which looks fantastic, but you do get a very thin rim of tyre, and the big wheels do affect economy quite a lot on the Model X. This E-Tron, this particular one, has 21-inch wheels, but with massive tyres, and that probably helps with its ride. It really does ride nicely, and I'll come on to that in a moment in a little bit more detail. So this E-Tron has the digital wing mirrors, a camera instead of a glass mirror. Probably need to turn it on then. So this particular E-Tron has the digital camera instead of wing mirrors. The idea is that they're thinner, they're more aerodynamic, and you can get to 1.5 miles of extra range per charge. Do they work better or not? Well, in some conditions yes, in some conditions no. It's harder to gauge distances, but I think I'm getting used to them. In reality, a normal wing mirror is probably easier, but we all like a gadget, and I quite like them. So the E-Tron has quite a large boot. This one's got a sort of plastic boot liner. They've got a bit of storage underneath there, and then the seats can fold from here. It's only a 5-seater. Overall for storage, the Tesla wins. So this Tesla's a 6-seater. It can be a 5, 6 or 7-seater. These seats easily fold down. There's no option for extra seats in the back of the Audi. You've got a very big deep storage area under here. In the 5-seaters you've got a huge storage area under here, and it's just far bigger. On the 6-seater you can even put really long things straight through without folding anything. So in the boot of a Model S, the parcel shelf comes out, the seats can fold down, and there is a big storage space just underneath here. And of course the Model 3 boot is a bit smaller again, and you don't have a hatchback. So what's under the E-Tron bonnet? Well, you have to get your fingers in, slide a catch. Kind of looks like an engine, but actually there's a little bit of storage underneath. Let's compare that to the Model X though. The Model X has a huge front space. You can get in here, there's loads of stuff, loads of storage, much wider, and you don't need to fiddle with a catch to open it up. The Model X wins this one. I'm 6 foot tall, my seat is in my position, I'm in the back, and it's plenty comfortable enough. Loads of leg room, yeah, enough headroom, and this has got the panoramic roof, so there's a little bit less than the others perhaps, but plenty of room in the back of the E-Tron. Very comfortable. A centre armrest comes down here as well, so it's not bad. Let's see how the X compares to this. Won't open. Child locks on. The Model X, of course, has falcon wing doors. How is it for space though? Well, kind of similar really. This is a 6-seater, it's comfortable, plenty of knee room. It feels like it's going to be lower here, but actually when this is closed, the glass section of the roof here is quite a long way above my head, so pretty comparable in terms of comfort in the back, I would say. One thing to bear in mind with the Model X is if you have a 6-seater or the earlier version of the 7-seater, these seats can't fold flat. This is the best you can do. You can tip them forward, extend the boot space, but they don't fold flat. So I'm sitting in the back of the Tesla Model S now, and kind of knee room's okay, but the headroom's a little bit tight, and the main thing you notice in the back of Model S is really how high your knees are compared to the seat base. So my knees are lifted up quite high. I'm 6 foot, but it's a little bit uncomfortable to be honest. And the back of the Model 3 gets a bit smaller again. I've got just about enough knee room, but again my knees are very high, so a Model 3 is definitely the smallest, as you would expect. So you might be able to hear there's a siren going off at the moment. If I close this door, it's nice and quiet in here. I do like it. It's just as quiet on the motorway as well. It really is very, very quiet. And apparently there's a double glazing option. This doesn't have it. Doesn't seem to need it. There's your clip. I do like the fact the Audi has a glass roof, but with a sunshade, and you can open it. Now you can't do that with the Tesla Model X. You can with some of the Model S, but the Model 3 and the Model X, that isn't an option. So that siren's still going off. If I close the door, I can still hear it, but it's not as muted as the Audi. And similar on the motorway really, you hear more wind noise and sort of ruffle noises in the Model X that we're sat in now. On the other hand, the Model X you can have as a 5, 6 or 7-seater. The E-Tron's just a 5-seater. So when you get in the Audi E-Tron, it's just a lovely place to be in terms of the kind of feeling of quality, the texture, leather here, leather here, leather here, and it just has a really nice, solid, premium feel about it. What do we think about the Model X in comparison? So inside the Model X, it's okay, it's not bad, it's always had kind of a bit more of a minimal feel about it, but the Audi feels a bit more sort of solid feeling inside. But the Model X isn't bad at all. We do find on some of the older Model X's or with more miles that you can hear a few more kind of creaks and squeaks, and there's certainly nothing in that Audi, but that's quite low mileage, that Audi. But inside, lovely, just maybe not a solid feeling, and this centre console, well, I've never really liked this. It's always been a bit of an afterthought. So the E-Tron has normal doors, which I think some people would prefer, but the idea with the Model X Falcon Wing door, well, it looks impressive, but the idea is that it can open in a very tight gap, and so if you've got maybe a baby in your arms to get in your seat, you can get in with good access. However, in some parking spaces and garages, having the fact the door opens up is a disadvantage. So it's a matter of how you want to use it, what you think of it. I think some people would prefer the normal doors, but the Falcon Wing doors are more interesting. So they both have off-road suspension height settings. I think the Audi goes slightly higher. Tesla seats are okay, but these Audi seats are amazing. Really nice leather finish. But what you can do with the Audi is you can bring these bolsters in here, you can bring the seat squabs in here, and you can actually extend the base out to support your thighs as well. The Audi seats win hands down. So in this E-Tron there's 5 screens, plus a head-up display. So it's hard to film, but I do like the head-up display in front of the driver. It gives you your navigation, your speed, the speed limits, and show you what driver assist systems are on. You've got the 2 screens for the wing mirrors. You've got a lower screen here, which is really for heating and seat control. And then you've got a main screen here, which is compatible with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So that's great, I do love that. And then you also have the digital display in front of the driver, which can also show you the mapping in there. Now, the Audi uses Google Maps, much like the Tesla, and it's equally as good. I like having more detail in this map up here, and there's more options to choose what you have on this display in front of you compared to the Tesla. The Tesla, by comparison, has that one big screen in the center, and this is probably easier to use, to be honest. I think it's more intuitive. The Audi has taken me a couple of days to get used to. And the Model X does show, same as the Model S, your navigation on this front screen in front of the driver when you're navigating, and it gives you the trip information, but there's not as many options for views on this as there is on the Audi. And the quality on the Audi, the depth of the screen is excellent, but the Tesla isn't bad, and I think it's a bit easy to use. You can have satellite view for Google in the Tesla, but on the newer cars you do have to pay for a monthly subscription to have that. Of course, in the newer versions of the Teslas, you do also have games, I can't say I've ever used them, and theatre. Why does this not come up now? In the newer versions of the Tesla, both the 3, the S and the X, you do have Netflix and YouTube, which you can watch when you're parked, maybe when you're charging, and you also have some games. The Audi doesn't have any of this, so if that's important to you, it has to be the Tesla. Of course, the Model X has power doors for opening and closing. The Audi doesn't have that, but what I would say about the Audi is you kind of don't really need them. Doof. Very solid. So the Audi has radar cruise, it has lane assist. It does a pretty good job of that. I found it very relaxing to drive. It's actually a bit smoother than the Tesla in most cases. However, the Tesla autopilot system is more advanced. It can do more. There's a few bugs in it at the moment. Sometimes there's things like phantom braking, which people have reported. I've not had too much of that myself, but the autopilot system is way more advanced and is always advancing. With the Tesla software updates, there's always improvements. It can do a lot more. Plus it can do things like summon, so it can actually be summoned out of your garage or out of a parking space, and that just isn't an option on the Audi. So what's it like to drive? Well, I find the Audi extremely comfortable. It's very refined. It has a ride comfort that I think is comparable to a Mercedes S-Class. It's an extremely comfortable place to be. It's very quiet on the motorway, it's smooth, it has ample power, but I just kind of found the way that I drive the Audi is in a more relaxed, sedate way. Enjoy the comfort, enjoy how quiet it is. So they sort of evoke quite a different sort of driving style, really. Now the Audi can move along, it has a much softer throttle, but you can put it into a sport mode which sharpens things up, and it moves along pretty quickly. This particular example is a 0 to 60 in kind of 5.5 seconds, so it's comparable to some of the slower versions of the Tesla. It's more than ample for its size. And it does feel its size and weight. Well, not size so much, but certainly its weight. It feels the heavier car. It's much softer. It's much more kind of floaty. It goes around the corners. Again, it can be put in dynamic mode, sort of stiffens things up a little bit, and you can hustle it along. But actually, what it kind of evokes is just that more relaxed driving style. I have to say, maybe it's my age, but I'm enjoying that. By comparison, the Teslas, they have quite a comfortable ride. The newer cars which have adaptive damping are slightly improved on the earlier air suspension cars for ride comfort. They are quite sensitive to wheel size, of course, so the slightly smaller wheels will give you a softer ride as well. But it's not as comfortable as the Audi. Where the Tesla does gain is more steering feel. It kind of hides the weight of the car better, and performance. By comparison, a Tesla goes like a stab rat. Performance or non-performance version of a Tesla, they're nearly all very fast. And in a way, probably more performance than you really need, but hands down, the Tesla is fast, a bit more steering feel, if not quite as much ride comfort. Let me just tell you something about the Regen Braking on the Audi. So with the Tesla, you can sort of one pedal drive. You lift off the throttle, the motor slows the car, and it has quite a strong regen effect. In fact, with Model 3, it comes to a complete stop, it holds the car, and you just press go again. The Audi works differently. It's a much softer system, but actually, it's quite clever. I noticed a couple of things over the last few days. When you lift off the throttle, it tends to want to coast. So by default, it would coast. However, if you're coming up behind other cars, or a roundabout, or a junction, it then increases the regenerative effect. So it slows the car. So it has this kind of automatic process for increasing or decreasing the regen. And there's a lot to be said for having a kind of coast mode. And I even know some Tesla drivers who have a driver profile which allows the car to have low regen, and on the motorway especially, it coasts. The Audi kind of does all that automatically. So I think it's quite a clever system. You do have an option to override it. Now, you may have noticed there's some paddles on the steering wheel here, and they're obviously not for gears, but this is for increasing and decreasing the regen effect manually. So it works in quite a different way. You end up with a slightly different driving style, but I actually really like it. I think it's quite good. It would be good to have an option for that with a Tesla. And to be honest, with the way Tesla can always do their software updates, there probably could be. So let's cover efficiency. It's quite well publicised that the Audi is less efficient than the Teslas. So in brief summary, and we'll run another video with some more comparisons in depth, the Model S is way more efficient. The Model 3 is even more efficient than that. But compared to a Model X, it's about the same, actually. We were kind of surprised. On one journey, it was slightly less efficient than a Model X 75D on 20-inch wheels. But on the journey with this car in Convoy, it was about the same. Now, this Model X has the big wheels, which do cost it efficiency, but they were very similar. So for a car of its size, it's actually fairly comparable to the Tesla so far. But we'll run some more tests on that and perhaps do another video in more depth. Let's talk about charging speeds. So I've charged this up a few times now, and the really impressive thing about the Audi is just how fast it charges. It can take 150 kilowatts, but it does that through most of the battery range. It only starts slowing down in the last 15 to 20%, and even then it finishes off very fast to go to 100%. A Tesla, by comparison, charges really fast at the lower end of the battery, but it continuously slows all the way through. So I've got an idea, which we'll put in another video, and that is to do a comparative journey from point A to point B, and at point B, charge them both back up and see which is faster. I think the Audi will win that one. So let's summarise things. Now. In essence, the Tesla is really the better car in a lot of ways. The Audi gains for comfort, build quality, refinement. The Tesla, easier to charge, better technology, better app connectivity, software updates that occur all the time. You've got functions like Sentry mode. There's kind of more to the Tesla. It's really the better and easier car. And that's why over the last 5 years, although I've tried lots of electric cars, I drive a Tesla. My current car is a Model 3 Performance and I love it. It's great. But what I want to do is actually keep this. I'm going to keep this car. I'm going to run it for a little bit. I'm going to enjoy that comfort, I'm going to enjoy that refinement, and I'm interested to kind of test out where this independent charging network, how well that works. Is it going to be convenient, or is it going to be difficult and hard to deal with? Is this a car you can only drive locally, or can you happily drive around the country or even around Europe in it? So it may be a surprise, but for now, I'm actually going to keep this E-Tron. My Tesla is in the showroom for sale.